Have you ever like thrown a pebble in a pond and like watched the ripples?
Oh, yeah.
It's so simple, right? That tiny little action creates this whole chain of effects.
Truly.
What if our lives work the same way?
Yeah.
And that's kind of where the idea of karma comes in,
Right.
that what goes around comes around.
Mm-hmm.
Today, we're taking a deep dive into karma,
Okay.
but not just the mystical stuff.
Yeah.
We're looking at what science has to say about this ancient concept.
It's a fascinating question, isn't it? Because karma, as it's understood in traditions like Hinduism and Buddhism,
Right.
it isn't about some cosmic scorekeeper
Right.
doling out rewards and punishments.
Okay.
It's way more nuanced than that.
Yeah.
It's about this intricate dance of cause and effect playing out over lifetimes, where every action, every thought sends out those ripples that eventually return to you.
Okay, so it's not about some divine being judging your every move,
Right.
but more about the natural consequences of your actions rippling back to you.
Exactly.
I can see where science might intersect with that idea.
Exactly. And one place to start is with the basic laws of physics.
Okay.
Think about Newton's third law. For
Cool.
every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction.
Yeah.
That's pure cause and effect.
Right.
Or consider the principle of conservation of energy.
Mm-hmm.
Energy can't be created or destroyed, only transformed.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we see this interconnectedness, this chain reaction, where one event leads to another.
So even at the most fundamental level of the universe, science is showing us this principle of interconnectedness.
Right.
That actions have consequences.
Yeah.
Could that be part of what the concept of karma is getting at?
It's certainly a compelling connection, and this idea of interconnectedness isn't just limited to physics.
Mm-hmm.
We see it in biology as well.
Okay.
Think about ecosystems.
Okay.
What happens to one species in an ecosystem can have ripple effects throughout the entire system.
Right, like if a keystone predator is removed,
Yeah,
the whole food web can be thrown out of whack.
absolutely.
So even in the natural world, we're seeing how actions, even unintentional ones, can have far-reaching consequences.
Precisely. And this brings us to an intriguing point.
Okay.
What if karma is simply a way of expressing this interconnectedness on a broader scale?
Okay.
What if our thoughts, intentions, and actions are all part of this grand web of cause and effect?
That's a pretty mind-blowing thought.
It is.
And it makes you wonder if science might be able to shed light on how karma works.
Right.
Not just on a physical level, but also on a mental and emotional level.
You're hitting on a key point because while physics and biology give us these broad examples of cause and effect,
Right.
neuroscience is starting to reveal how our thoughts and actions literally shape our brains.
We're talking about neuroplasticity, right?
Yeah.
This idea that our brains aren't static, but are constantly changing based on our experiences.
Exactly. It's like walking through a forest.
Okay.
The more you walk down a particular path, the more defined that path becomes.
Right.
Similarly, the more you engage in certain thoughts or behaviors, the more you're strengthening those neural pathways.
So if you're constantly dwelling on negative thoughts, you're actually reinforcing those neural pathways,
Exactly.
making it more likely that you'll continue to have negative thoughts.
That's the idea. But here's the good news.
Oh.
The opposite is also true.
Huh?
Practices like mindfulness, gratitude, and compassion can actually create positive changes in the brain. There are studies showing that these practices can lead to increased activity
Wow.
in areas of the brain associated with empathy, emotional regulation, and well-being.
So in a way, we're creating our own psychological karma by shaping our brains through our thoughts and actions.
Right.
We're literally changing our inner world, which then impacts how we interact with the outer world.
That's a powerful way to put it, and this brings us to the fascinating realm of behavioral science.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of reinforcement theory?
Vaguely.
Yeah.
It has something to do with how we're more likely to repeat behaviors that lead to positive consequences.
Exactly. It suggests that our actions are shaped by the consequences that follow. If an action leads to a positive outcome, we're more likely to repeat it. If it leads to a negative outcome, we're less likely to repeat it.
Right.
It's a built-in feedback loop that encourages us to make choices that benefit us.
So in a way, it's like a natural guidance system that steers us towards actions that lead to positive consequences, which could be seen as a form of positive karma.
I like that connection. And if we look at relationships,
Okay.
we see a similar principle at play in the concept of reciprocity.
Okay.
When we treat others with kindness and generosity, they're more likely to reciprocate.
Yeah.
This creates a positive feedback loop where positive actions lead to more positive actions.
Okay, so we've explored how basic physics biology neuroscience,
Right.
and even behavioral science all hint at this idea of interconnectedness, that actions have consequences.
Exactly.
But what about the really mind-bending stuff, like quantum physics?
Oh, yeah.
Does that have anything to say about karma?
It does, and this is where things get truly fascinating. One of the most mind-boggling concepts in quantum physics is entanglement.
I've heard of that, but I'll admit it's always seemed a bit beyond my grasp.
Well, imagine two coins flip simultaneously.
Okay.
No matter how far apart they are, one always lands on heads and the other on tails. They're linked in a way that defies our normal understanding of space and time.
Okay.
That's kind of like entanglement. It suggests that particles can be interconnected regardless of distance.
Okay. I think I'm starting to get the picture.
Good.
But how does this relate to karma?
Well, if even tiny particles can be interconnected in such a profound way, it challenges our whole notion of separation.
Yeah.
It suggests that there might be a deeper level of interconnectedness that permeates the entire universe.
Yep.
And that's incredibly relevant to the idea of karma because
Because if everything is interconnected, then our actions, our thoughts, even our intentions
yes.
could be rippling out through this interconnected web,
Yeah.
eventually making their way back to us.
Precisely. It's a mind-blowing concept. And while quantum physics doesn't use the word karma,
Right.
it certainly offers a scientific framework that aligns with the idea that our actions have far-reaching consequences.
This is all so much to take in, but I have to say it's incredibly fascinating.
It is a fascinating topic.
Before we go any further down this rabbit hole, maybe we should pause for a moment and remind our listeners.
To like this video and subscribe to our channel if they're enjoying this deep dive into karma.
Yes.
And don't forget to share this exploration with your friends who might be interested in these big questions about life and the universe.
Exactly. The more people we can engage in these thought-provoking conversations, the better.
I agree.
Okay, ready to keep exploring.
Absolutely. Next, let's delve into some real-world examples of how these principles might be playing out in our lives.
Okay, so we've laid out some pretty mind-bending scientific concepts
Yeah.
that seem to resonate with the idea of karma, but how does this actually play out in real life?
Right.
Do we have any tangible examples of this cosmic cause and effect in action?
We do, and this is where the lines between science and personal experience can get a bit blurry.
Bro.
One area where we see this interplay is in the study of altruism and well-being.
Yeah.
There's a growing body of research that shows a strong correlation between helping others and experiencing increased happiness and even improved physical health.
So basically, being kind to others actually benefits us.
It seems that way.
It's almost like a built-in reward system for positive actions, wouldn't you say?
It's a fascinating observation, isn't it?
Yeah.
It suggests that acts of kindness and generosity, even small ones,
Right.
can create a positive feedback loop, not only impacting the recipient of the kindness, but also the giver.
And that seems to align with the karmic idea that what you put out into the world comes back to you, right?
Precisely. And then there's the intriguing phenomenon of synchronicities.
Okay.
Those meaningful coincidences that seem to defy the odds.
Yeah.
Have you ever experienced one of those moments where it felt like the universe was conspiring to bring something into your life?
Oh, absolutely. Like that time I was thinking about a specific book I wanted to read. And then the very next day I stumbled upon it at a used bookstore.
Wow.
It felt like more than just chance.
Exactly. And while science doesn't yet have a definitive explanation for synchronicities,
Right.
they certainly point to the possibility that there's more to reality than meets the eye.
Yeah.
Some people believe that synchronicities are more likely to occur when we're acting with intention and purpose,
Okay.
as if aligning ourselves with a greater flow of energy.
So if we're putting out positive vibes and acting with good intentions,
Yeah.
we're more likely to experience those serendipitous moments. That's a pretty encouraging thought.
It is. And speaking of intention,
Okay.
it's worth exploring the concept of karma in the context of reincarnation, a belief found in many spiritual traditions.
Okay.
What's interesting is that even in this area, often seen as purely mystical,
Right.
there are researchers who've attempted to explore it through a scientific lens.
Right. Wait, are there scientists who actually study reincarnation?
Are?
How does that even work?
Well, it's a controversial field, but researchers like Dr. Ian Stevenson,
Okay.
a psychiatrist at the University of Virginia, spent decades meticulously documenting cases of children who claimed to remember past lives.
Wow.
He looked for verifiable details, birthmarks, or even phobias that could potentially link these children to deceased individuals.
And did he find anything convincing? I mean, that's a pretty bold claim to investigate.
He documented hundreds of cases cases, some with surprisingly compelling correlations
Okay.
between the children's memories and the lives of people who had passed away.
Interesting.
While it's impossible to definitively prove reincarnation,
Right.
his research at least opens the door to the possibility that consciousness might not be limited to a single lifetime.
Okay, let's say, for argument's sake, that reincarnation is a real phenomenon.
Okay.
How does that connect to karma?
Well, if we entertain the idea that our souls can be reborn, it suggests that the karmic consequences of our actions could potentially carry over from one lifetime to the next. Imagine it like a spiritual balance sheet
Okay.
that reflects the accumulation of our actions and intentions across multiple lifetimes.
So are you saying we could be born with karmic baggage from past lives?
Yeah.
Things we need to work through in this life.
It's a thought-provoking concept, isn't it?
Yeah.
It suggests that our current circumstances might not be solely determined by our actions in this life,
Right.
but could be influenced by past life experiences as well.
That's a pretty heavy idea.
It is.
But on the flip side, wouldn't that also mean we have the power to change our karmic trajectory through our actions in this lifetime?
Exactly, and that's actually quite empowering.
Yeah.
It means we're not simply victims of fate, but active participants in shaping our karmic destiny.
Wow, this conversation is really making me think about the choices I make and the intentions behind my actions.
Right.
It's like realizing that even seemingly insignificant decisions can have far-reaching consequences.
It's a profound realization, and it speaks to the heart of what karma is all about: mindful living.
Okay.
Being aware of the impact of our choices, both on ourselves and on others,
Right?
and striving to create positive ripples in the world.
This is all so incredibly fascinating, but I know we have a lot more ground to cover.
We do.
Before we continue exploring the practical implications of karma, let's remind our viewers.
To hit that subscribe button and give this video a like if they're enjoying this deep dive.
Yeah.
Sharing it with their friends would also be a fantastic way to spread these thought-provoking ideas.
Absolutely. The more people we can engage in this conversation, the better.
Right.
All right, are you ready to dive into the practical side of karma?
I am.
How can we actually apply this ancient wisdom to our modern lives? So we've talked about the science behind karma, and we've looked at some real-world examples.
Right.
But how do we actually apply this concept to our lives?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's one that a lot of people struggle with.
It can feel a bit overwhelming, right?
It can.
Like, where do you even begin?
I think a good place to start is by shifting our perspective.
Yeah.
Instead of thinking of karma as some kind of cosmic punishment or reward system,
Right.
what if we view it as a principle of mindful action?
Mindful action, what do you mean by that?
It's about being more conscious of the choices we make, the words we speak,
Okay.
and the intentions behind our actions. It's about pausing, even for a moment,
Yeah.
to consider the potential ripple effects of our choices, both for ourselves and for others.
So instead of just reacting impulsively,
Right.
we take a moment to ask ourselves, what kind of impact do I want to have?
Exactly.
Am I contributing to more harmony or more discord? Am I creating ripples of kindness or ripples of negativity?
Exactly. It's about cultivating a sense of responsibility for the energy we're putting out into the world.
Right.
And remember, this isn't about being perfect or never making mistakes.
Okay.
We're all human, and we're all going to mess up sometimes.
That's reassuring to hear. Because I think sometimes people get caught up in this idea
Yeah.
that if they make one wrong move, their karma is ruined.
That's a common misconception.
Yeah.
Karma isn't about perfection. It's about learning and growing.
Right.
It's about acknowledging our mistakes, making amends where possible, and using those experiences as opportunities to evolve.
So even our mistakes can be valuable in a karmic sense.
Absolutely.
They may be powerful catalysts for growth and transformation.
Wow.
They can teach us compassion, empathy, and humility.
Okay, so it's about mindful action.
Right.
Learning from our mistakes. And recognizing that karma is a dynamic process, not a fixed destiny.
Exactly.
But are there any specific practices or actions we can take to cultivate positive karma?
One of the simplest yet most profound practices is to focus on cultivating kindness and compassion in our daily interactions.
Yeah.
A genuine smile, a kind word, a helping hand.
Yeah.
These seemingly small acts can create a ripple effect of positivity that extends far beyond our immediate perception. It's like that saying, be the change you want to see in the world.
Exactly.
If we want to experience more kindness and compassion, we need to embody those qualities ourselves.
Beautifully put. And remember, it's not just about grand gestures or heroic acts. It's about those small everyday choices that often go unnoticed,
Yeah.
but can have a profound impact on the people around us.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation.
It has been great talking about this.
It's made me realize that karma isn't some mystical concept reserved for spiritual seekers.
Yeah.
It's a principle that's woven into the very fabric of reality,
Right.
reflected in the laws of physics, biology, and even in our own minds.
And it reminds us that we're all interconnected, that our actions have consequences,
Right.
and that we each have the power to create positive change in the world one ripple at a time.
Before we wrap up this deep dive into karma, we want to remind our viewers
To subscribe to our channel and like this video if they found this exploration insightful. And don't forget to share it with anyone who might be interested in exploring these profound questions about life, the universe, and everything in between.
yes, please spread the word. The more people we can engage in these thought-provoking conversations, the better.
Absolutely.
And remember, there are 2 videos on your screen right now.
Oh, yeah.
So if you're feeling inspired to continue your journey of exploration, be sure to click on one of them and see where it leads you.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep those karmic ripples flowing in a positive direction.